Hey yo dog, I heard you like tree men, so let's make like a tree and branch, cause Durthu's Wargrove is in the house, and they're ready to kick some ass. I was playing some games with Aerocrastic yesterday, and wanted to try something new, something fresh, so we're using a Regiment of Renown compilation mod by Decomposed, Why So Furious, and Jailhouse Rocker. And there are some awesome units here that really breathe life back into the battles if they're starting to feel a little bit stale. And a lot of these Regiments of Renown you might recognize, little tidbits of lore dropped in old editions, or units first introduced in the End Times books making their way into a game for the first time. But they can completely change the way you approach combat, and give you something new to sink your teeth into. You know this matchup well, Wood Elves and Beastmen, they hate each other, always have, always will. But when both sides have some new toys to play with, things can get pretty insane. And the Bray Herds come from the darkest forests of the old world. They'll be looking to feast on elf flesh, but the Treemen might have something to say about that. Are those Fimir? What the hell's going on? Who let the dogs out? Who? Who did this? So as we get this battle started, let's take a look at some of these units, shall we? Durthu's Wargrove are a literal unit of Treemen. Straight from the End Times books, they collectively have about 20% more HP than a single Treeman. Very beefy stat line, and an ability called Titans of Ages Past, which gives them weapon damage and unbreakable for 25 seconds. I think they're probably the coolest Regiment of Renown I have ever seen, mod or not. I think CA should be designing a lot more like this one and the Raven's Heralds, fundamentally changing the unit but keeping a large part of their base identity intact. Durthu's Goon Squad are beat sticks, no question about it. They should be a lot of fun to use. Let's move over here and take a look at some of the archers, and these are the Shadow Band of the Oblast, a unit of Deepwood Scouts from Kislev with very long range at 210, bonus versus large on their missile attack, and True Flight arrows, which grants an accuracy bonus when no enemies are nearby. The Ashenhawks are Erloth's personal Way Watchers, trained by the famous champion Scarlock, and they get a better version of hawkish precision, very high missile damage as you might expect, and in the vanguard of the Wood Elf Rush are the Dryads of the Willow Groves. They have poison attacks and a very beefy melee attack stat of 47. So a couple more Dryads, a couple Eternal Guard, pretty much rounds out the rest of the build with some Wild Riders in the rear. And for the Beastmen, they of course are vanguarding some stuff, some Centaurs and Poison Warhounds in the back of the map. And over here, we have the Gibberkin Chaos Spawn with regeneration, and they are some big ass, scary looking dudes. My lord, look at that. They also have a weapon debuff around them, called the Gibberkin Aura, which lowers weapon damage by 12%. So they're pretty brutal, but a big target for all the archers we fielded. Bray Shaman on a Razor Gore Chariot with Pit of Shades and Enfeebling Foe. And these are Red Maw's pack, the littermates of Kazrak's pet Warhound, channeling some Coordinate Fury with that red color scheme. Bonus versus large, AP, poison, and a whole lot of speed make them pretty scary for the Wood Elves. Ungrol's Raiders are poison archers with an increased ammo pool, and right next to them are the Shadowgors, looking really awesome in that black color scheme. They are Poison, Stalk, and Vanguard units with, well, they're kind of like the black sheep of the Beastmen Bray Herds. You've probably heard of the Frederheim inmates before, escaped prisoners from an Empire madhouse who turn and twisted under the glow of Morslib. They've stolen the gear of their jailers and have Frenzy and a bonus versus infantry. And finally, Shulan's Marsh Hornets, Fimir, with a pretty nasty stat line that have taken up arms alongside the Cloven ones. So those are the builds, and the Wood Elves and the Beastmen about to kill each other in the forests of the Empire. So what's the game plan here? What are we trying to do with these new units? Well, the Ashenhawks and Shadow Band of the Oblast are murderous when they focus fire on a single target, and those Gibberkin and that Beast Lord both seem like a pretty worthy target to snipe out early. Relatively low armor with a huge hitbox. Deepwood Scouts will have a very fun time making pincushions out of them. But as we take a look at these archers, something is brewing in the back of the map. And the Beastmen, who were trying to ambush us, are instead going to get ambushed by the Wild Riders, who will come out of the woods and destroy those Poison Warhounds, run them from the field, channeling their inner Simhan Eldar Craft World stuff, or I guess you could say Simhan are channeling their inner Athel Loren. But yeah, we got some awesome kills there, and getting them off the field early will be real nice, but the Centaurs are kind of pissed off about it, and they're going to go straight for the Dryads and try to get an early charge in. Eternal Guard, very nearby, might be able to cover their retreat, but no, it'll be a clean charge off into the Dryads, and I'm not going to do a massive amount of damage to either side, but they're going to pull out, and the Wild Riders are ready to cover their retreat, charge in, and it looks great, but no, that is going to be a Pit of Shades, and this is one of the most glorious Pit of Shades I have ever seen in my life. Overcast hitting both Wild Riders, and I try to escape, try to pull out. They have nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, and they will be sent to the Shadow Realm as that gigantic vortex rips apart their formations and sends them to slivers of HP, leaving a desolate wasteland in its wake. Brutal cast, really well done from Arrowcrest to bait out those Wild Rider charges, and the cavalry has just been depleted massively by that charge. But the Gibberkin are getting absolutely murdered by the two archers, and they're going to make very little impact on this game. Durthu's Wargrove are in the house, and they are mad, and they are going to send a bunch of Ungor Raiders flying and destroy them with their gigantic swords of death. It's going to be glorious when they stride to war, and they'll be able to carve their way through hordes of Beastmen infantry. They cause terror, they have a real beefy stat line. Blood will fountain in their wake, and it's going to be fun to watch them fight. Transformation of Khadon Manticore summoned by Durthu, and if you've been wondering why Manticores have become such a core component of the current multiplayer meta, it's because their degen aura is actually quite a bit slower than most other summons in the game. In fact, they are the longest lasting summon since the Vampire Coast patch, which means you get a ton of value when you're trying to terror out enemies or goon a lord or spellcaster, because they don't go down very quick. Gibberkin are on their last legs. They got destroyed on the way in, and the Red Maw Clawpack are in the wrong neighborhood. They do have bonus for large, they do have AP, but they would be much better suited hunting down the archers at the opening stages of this battle, and instead they went straight for the Treekin and got absolutely murdered by Durthu's Wargrove. So they're going to run, probably going to come back, but they won't have much HP, and they have no way to get their health back. The archers are in a good spot, and Durthu, he is very displeased with that particular Ungor. F you in particular, good sir. How about we stomp you into a pancake and squeeze the blood out of you? That was so awesome. And back here, it looks like some of the Shadowgors and the Beastmen fast movers are trying to shut down the archers and prevent those Ashen Hawks from dealing all their damage. Deepwood Scouts in a good spot to keep kiting those Shadowgors, who are fast and they do have stock, but they're too close to hide now. And there's no hiding from the Ashen Hawks. Their AP missiles shredding them alive, and they'll probably go down pretty quick, tied down by those Eternal Guard. Wild Riders are still alive and charging downhill, but again, a Pit of Shades awaits them. This time, it'll kind of clip the edge of the units and won't hit them fully. They'll be able to escape and still be around. But man, that first Pit of Shades was a thing of beauty. Absolutely gorgeous, and really hurt their combat effectiveness because it killed about 30 models on both units, which is pretty crazy. And in the middle of everything, last the Gibberkin about to fall, and the Wargrove standing firm in a storm of Ungor arrows. But even with that physical resist and big HP pool, there's only so much that unit can take. They are buffed up by the Lore of Life, a caster nearby, but they'll have to reposition because that focus fire can get pretty brutal when it's given a lot of time to fire in. Feral Manticore chasing down the Beast Lord, but as he drives by, straight out of Compton style, gonna chop through a few of those poor Ashen Hawks, getting some good point-blank volleys in, and the Manticore gonna hunt down that Beast Lord, and he will look to extricate himself from that kind of scary situation. Ungor is charging forward. You guys are in the wrong neighborhood, I'm sorry to say it. The Wargrove are pissed off, and the Wild Riders on the other side charging in to those Ungor Raiders. Archers with poison attacks. They will get their charge off, but they are so depleted at this point, so hurt. They probably won't be able to even beat up that Archer unit. And the Red Maw Clawpack back into the thick of it, but soon to be terror routed and again running for the hills, and that will be the last we see of them. Beast Lord and the Bray Shaman hunting down the archers and causing a lot of havoc in the back. It can be very hard to protect your archers against all those fast movers, as some sad little goatmen run forward to meet their doom. Can't even see the forest for the trees. And the Athel Loren Apocalypse, new rap group from the Deepwood, dropping their new album on the Beastmen, slicing and dicing with some sick rhymes and some sick beats. Ungor's making like a tree and getting the hell out of there, and they should, because they just lost a lot of their number in only a handful of seconds. Durthu doing the same thing over on the other side of the battlefield, and that Manticore still terror routing and still on the field somehow. Nice rear charge into the Eternal Guard with those Centaurs, and those pockets of Ungor Raiders still around and still getting a lot of good shots into both Durthu and the Durthu's Wargrove unit. But Durthu's almost full HP. Lore of Life has healed him up quite tremendously, and they've had to focus the Wargrove, which has kind of left him a little bit well, in good shape, honestly. On the other side, some Ungors and Eternal Guard fighting it out. But here in the center of everything, this is where it's important. Earthblood keeping those tree men in the fight. Spellcaster blowing herself up with an Earthblood Overcast. And they're actually fighting some Fimir. Now that variant of Fimir, the Shoelands Marsh Hornets, do not have magical attacks, so they are not cutting through the physical resist, but they have very high AP, 80 weapon damage. They're still going to chunk through them pretty quick. So Durthu's Wargrove have to be pretty careful, and the Beastmen have a nice little surround off on what remains of the Wood Elves army. Now a lot of these units are lower tier, but the Spellcaster and the Beast Lord are both still alive and still duking it out. But the Wood Elves are flocking to their lord. The Dryads of the Willow Grove, the remnants of them, have done very well this battle, but they will not be able to beat Fimir in close quarters combat. And Aracrastic has done a very good job of keeping Enfeebling Foe debuffing Durthu's Wargrove the entire battle. I mean, that spell has been on them for the majority of their combat here, and certainly made an impact, but a lot of this chaff just cannot withstand the fury of such a powerful unit. They've taken a lot of damage from those Ungor Raiders and the Fimir, but as they stride forward and try to make some new war with the Beastmen, this will pretty much be the end of the battle one way or another. There are not a lot of melee troops left for the Beastmen here, and the Manticore is tying down some of those archers and feasting on their flesh. The Beast Lord and the Bray Shaman coming back to try to reinforce and get rid of that damned Manticore. The Transformation of Khadan, such a good spell. Getting 2 Manticores in a battle, really strong, but we've only summoned 1 this battle, and Wargrove still marching, March of the Ents on Isengard, ready to kill some Uruks and murder those poor beastie boys, and they will do so, smacking them around with their Swords of Daith. And Durthu, the angriest of all tree men, anger incarnate, just filled with insensate rage, and ripping them to pieces. And he will do so, get into the thick of it, into the cookie jar, and that is pretty much going to put the nail in the coffin for the Beastmen here. Let's take a look at the angry tree man. Almost channeling chaos, that dude is so pissed off. It kind of makes you question which side he's on. But he's on nobody's side, because nobody is on his side. Durthu killing it this battle. He has just been a bastion in the center. Over 100 kills, and Durthu's Wargrove, amazing as a compliment to him. Would love to see them as an official unit. They were so much fun to use this battle, and they were absolutely amazing. So what we're going to see here are the kill counts, and they were very high for both sides, honestly, but especially on the Wood Elf side, because the Beastmen fielded almost more than 1,800 units. I mean, they fielded an obscene amount of models that game. Durthu, 108 kills, Dryads, 103, Dryads of the Willow Grove, 171, but they're a much more expensive variant of Dryad, and there was tons of chaff for them to kill. The Shadow Band of the Oblast, 88, and the Weight Watchers, 112. I mean, they killed the Chaos Spawn and a bunch of other stuff too. Wild Riders, despite the fact that they kind of got murdered by that glorious Pit of Shades from Aracrastic, still made their presence felt, although of course those kill counts will be inflated a bit. And the Durthu's Wargrove unit itself, the Tree Men, 140 kills. More than anything, they tanked a lot of the DPS the Beastmen tried to throw their way. Lore of Life helped them tremendously, as you might expect, and when you pair them with Durthu, it can be hard to bring both those guys down, especially when they're getting regrowths and Earthbloods sent their way. I don't know if the Tree Men unit would be a staple of the multiplayer meta if it made it in. Very susceptible to units like Sisters of Avalorn or armor-piercing archers, that kind of thing. Certainly made their presence felt in this one, and for the Beastmen, amazing Pit of Shades. The Beast Lord and the Bray Shaman, amazingly used. The Chaff, not going to get a lot of kills, but the Frederheim Inmates, 114. Bonus versus infantry helped them cut through Eternal Guard. Shadowgors got shredded by the archers. And the Fimir, 95 kills in the middle of it all. Gibberkin just barely made it into combat. They got destroyed from long range. Really fun game, and we got an even better battle for the next one. Tomb Kings versus Dark Elves. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace out.